Welcome to the Money Over 50 podcast, brought to you by Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue from Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. Here are your hosts, Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue.
Welcome to Money Over 50. Today's topic is that your money has to have a job description. Michael, what do we got?
Thanks, Dallas. So we like to give our own money and our clients' money a job description.
Yeah.
Because we find without that job description, it just really doesn't have any sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And it has no clear
Metric for success.
Metric for success.
Yeah.
So there's different groups of money involved. Some money will by its very nature be fallback money.
Yeah.
And we think of that money as our grandma.
I was about to say, anyone who's a long time listener to the podcast going, here we go. He's talking about his money. He's talking about the money of his grandma and the money of getting dressed and going to work for you. But
yeah,
I think that's what we're talking about there is your money, each portion of your money is actually for a different purpose. It serves a different purpose. It does a different thing. And I think that's the point that you're touching on there is that if you're marking all of your different portions of money using the same scorecard, it doesn't make any sense. In the same way that if you've got a business with 10 staff and someone's job is to answer the phone and someone's job is to go and be the technician and someone's job is to be the sales rep and someone's job is to do this, you don't mark them all according to the same scorecard. You don't get to the end of the year and go, well, the guy who was a technician, you didn't answer the phone within the first 3 rings. He'd just be going, what are you talking? That's not my job. That's not what I was meant to do. So I think this is your point here, and you can explain more about the different pools of money, what they mean. But I think the
scorecard thing that you just mentioned there is a great way to think of it.
Yeah.
And it's probably a better way than saying KPI, or key performance indicator. Scorecard's a good word.
Yeah.
So with a scorecard, like you said, if it's a human being and you're in a role, and your role is greeting customers as Kylie, our director of financial doing is her role. She picks up so one of her scorecards is how often she communicates with people, how quickly she answers the phone. There's a lot of intangible qualities in there as well that we could never replicate.
She resolves the problem and provides information, all those sorts of things.
So with your money, and when I say your money, we're talking about everything here. We're talking about your bank accounts. We're talking about your superannuation. We're talking about your money that you may have accumulated in investments as well. We're talking about, if you have any, we're talking about rental property as well. So basically what you need to what we like to do is work out for our clients, okay, of that piece of the puzzle, of that pot of money, what is its job? What's the scorecard we're going to measure that by? So for example, if we're looking at a 50-year-old couple or a single person for that matter, and they have 15 years to go before they're going to retire, and then are likely another 30 years into retirement. On the scorecard for their superannuation, for example, for most of those people, it would on the scorecard would be to invest where we give ourselves the best chance of averaging an 8% net rate of return per year or above. There would be written on that scorecard, we're accepting and embracing of certain times when 1/3 of our paper wealth in for that pot of money may disappear at points in time, maybe a half. It may half for a period of time. basically the job of this $500,000 is to get to $1.6 million over the next 15 years. Here's how that's going to happen. Yep. We're going to fund it via this much per fortnight. We're going to stick to the plan. We're going to do all those types of things. So when that Murphy's Law occurs and 1 month into that
plan,
50-year-old's plan, the $500,000 drops to $250,000 because we get whatever the next apocalypse is.
Which we know there will be one.
We know there will be. We just don't know when it's going to occur. So that's not.
You don't mark that money.
You don't mark that money down for doing that.
Yeah.
You say we're accepting and embracing of that, and it says that right here on the job description of that pot of money, because the job of that money is to generate that 8% plus net rate of return per annum over the next 15 to 45 years.
And that's I think, so to continue your example there, if you've got a new client who's going, I've got $500,000 in super, like you say, that's the scorecard or the job description of that money. It'd be like a new employee where you go, here are the things that we need you to do. Here are the metrics that we will be measuring your performance based on. Yeah, you then separate to that, they might have $50,000 in a bank account in their own name, and that money is their buffer. That's their emergency expenses. That's so that they can sleep at night. That gives them peace of mind. That allows them to ride things out. It allows them to try new things and go and get a different job that may offer faster progression, all those sorts of things. That money gets managed or measured very differently to that. So, like we said, if we've just watched our $500,000 in super drop to 400, 300, 250,000, it obviously doesn't feel good, but we're not saying that money has not done what its job was. Whereas if you've got $50,000 in cash, and I need it to perform those things, I need it to be a buffer against hard times. I need it to be available when I need it and when I can draw on it. I need to know that it's going to be at least that amount. I need to know that it's not going to disappear. I need to know that it's not going to drop when I need it. If I do something with that 50,000, and then I look at it a month later and it's dropped to 25,000, it's failed. Even though it may have performed exactly the same as the super fund. That's the job description of that money was to accept no volatility. We did not want any volatility with that, and that's kind of, I think you touched on this in another podcast about junk bonds masquerading as term deposits. This is where people run into a lot of trouble with things where they're going, I want this money to grow as much as possible over the long term, but I don't want to ever see the balance drop. You're given the money two different jobs. The money doesn't know what it's meant to do. Is it meant to grow over the long term, or is it meant to to do this? And I think you see that with when you've worked with anyone who's had good bosses and bad bosses wherever they've worked in the past. A bad boss will say, your job is to do these 65 things and they're all a priority. You go, well, you can't. You physically cannot do all those things. A good boss will go, listen, I need you to do this one thing. I need you to do this one thing and I need you to do it well. Yeah, and you can't drop the ball any other way, but I need you to focus on that one thing and I'll work the rest of the team around you, and it's the same analogy with a coach. A coach doesn't say to their football team, hey, I've got 13 players here. I need you all to score tries, and I need you all to make 50 tackles in a game, and I need you all to have a good kicking game, and I need you all to, get quick play the balls, and I need you all to do all these things. They break that task down into different components, and that's, I think, what a good financial plan does. It breaks your money down into different parts. And I think to explain further, that this is actually something that we do in a concrete basis with people. When we have a first meeting with someone, they provide their assets and liabilities, and we basically put that into a spreadsheet. And what we do is one of the first things that we do with people, the first conversations, is you're going through this line item by line item, going, okay, that money in your superannuation, what's the point of it? What have you? How have you historically thought about that? What have you done with that money? What do you think is a measure of success for that money? Okay, great. The next item is an investment that you own in your own name. Same questions. What is it that you're trying to achieve with that money? What do you think you need to be doing? What do you think is important with that? Okay, you've got this rental. You've got this rental property. What's the point of it? And the reason we do it that way is you find that you actually surface a lot of conflicting thoughts that people hold in their head. And that's the point of doing it like that is you don't look at the whole lot and go, right, what do you think all of your money needs to try and do? You go through item by item and go, and you sometimes have where one of two things happens, and you can either agree with this or not, but I think that as I'm going through this with people, sometimes the fact that they have to verbalize what the point of that money is, they realize themselves that it's fundamentally flawed. So I've had this before where you say to someone, okay, we've talked about how you need to accumulate this much money in retirement savings. Now, this property or this investment, what's the point of it? And they'll go, to get a tax deduction. And as they're saying it, they go, well, hang on, it's not really, that may be useful, but that's not really what I think. Now that I think about it, I want that to be growing and working for me as hard as possible. So I've given that money the wrong job. It's my fault as the boss, as the person in charge there. I've given the wrong job description to that money.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it does certainly help to do that. I find it helps when I'm talking to my clients. We go through the same or similar process and talk about why did you do this? Like what is the what's the point of that? It's not an interrogation. It's just an understanding. Yeah. Like it helps frame it. At the end of that, you want to have separate pots of money, having separate job descriptions and separate scorecards. Yeah. I've long thought that where people make mistakes is that when they see volatility, they without having a plan in place, without having a job description, a la this $500,000 is $500,000 now. Yeah. But really we're investing it to get it to $1.6 million over the next 10 years. What we need to do is we need to be accepting of volatility, because the only way we're going to, one of the things we need out of that is an 8% plus rate of return, and the only way we're going to get that if we're accepting of volatility. Now, the failure to have that plan, the failure to have that job description for that money, I can understand why when someone sees their $500,000 drop to $400,000 temporarily. I can understand why they bail out. Yeah, and they bail out because they thought, well, $500,000 was a lot of money. Never thinking for a second that the job of that money was to really get to $1.6 million. They're happy to see it just go up every year, and we've done a separate podcast on that as well, where people naturally
that's the job of that money.
Think the job of the money is just to go up every year. All of a sudden, it doesn't. It goes backwards. It goes backwards by $100,000. So I can understand why people with the absence of that plan and the absence of that job description, I can understand why people make a fatal mistake. Yeah, and sell out at that point in time.
It's performing poorly, like a bad employee. And the comparison, and like we say, it's like you're drawing a comparison to the other employee who's doing a different role. So that they're going, my super balance has dropped from 500,000 to 400,000. My 50 grand that I had in the bank, it's still 50 grand. Jeez. The money in the bank's doing a good job. This super balance, it's no good. It's a failure. I need to have a good talking to with it. It's not a fair comparison, and I think that the job description is a great way of thinking, because you're not being fair if you're marking if you. The first step is to come up with that plan and know why you own all of the things that you own. What's the job description of this money? What's the purpose of it? And that will also give you how do I measure this moving forward? How do I know whether it's been successful? And that's, I think you got to be realistic about the same thing. We'd all love to only work with people or to have employees who could do everything and were fantastic in every single area of everything that might be relevant to your business. But that's just not how reality works. Different asset classes and different people all have strengths and weaknesses, and it's just a matter of filling the right the right spot with the right person who's going to be a good fit for that. I think the other part of it that, and I was just thinking about the concept of the job description, is the other one that we tend to see here is people have some money that's doing a job that they really can't afford to have that job in their organisation. So the example I'm thinking of here is if you need and I've got some clients who want to draw $100,000 a year in retirement, and they've got, say, $4 million, and so they go, we want to have $500,000 worth of our retirement savings in cash, because we've got at least 5 years covered. It doesn't matter what company prices do. They can afford to have that role within the organisation. It's like having a full-time HR person, where they kind of go, well, that's great. You got a pretty big organisation. You can afford to have a full-time HR person, a full-time marketing person, or whatever, because it fits in with that organisation. Now, if the same people, if people are coming to me with $1 million in retirement savings, and they're saying we want $500,000 in cash, their organisation doesn't support that role. You can't have a three person business and have a full-time HR person. It just doesn't stack up. All of your profits going out in wages to that person, and so.
I love that analogy, and I love that one because it's dependent on the actual quantity of resources that you have, and we've recently done podcasts on how life cycle funds attempt to put people into an average bucket, and
it doesn't work like that,
and it doesn't work like that. So like they're making decisions based on not really knowing the level of resources that people have. They're just saying anyone that's of this age
needs to have,
is going to be, they're going to have half of their superannuation balance in cash. And as we know, for someone with $1 million or less, that's not going to be enough. No. They're not going to have enough of their money getting dressed and going to work for them. The people with $3 or $4 million, can't afford.
Can afford that. HR personal. It's not a bad one.
So, for me, if you can think about your money as what is the job of that pot of money. So people inherently have different pots of money. What is the job of that money? Where does that need to get me to? What type of attributes should it have to get me that job? To be successful in their job role, in that pot of money's job role.
Absolutely. I think that's the way that I think of it is that you wouldn't just employ someone. You wouldn't say, okay, our business is growing, this is great, this is where we want to be in 10 years' time. You wouldn't just go, we need a new staff member, let's employ someone, and then when they come in, you say, just do whatever. It's just not how it works. You have to craft that. You have to think about what is it that and it's not just who do I want to employ next, or who would, I get along with this guy, so I'm going to give him a job. You've really got to think of it like any organisation. Go, where does this organisation need to be in 10 years' time? Who are what's the role that needs to be filled, and then who's going to be the right person for that role? And that's how you got to think about your money overall and each of those individual pots.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. We look forward to catching up again soon.